Welcome back to Sidewalk, Skyline podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Rogers. In our podcast, we're always talking about what God is doing on the streets of Canadian cities. So let me tell you a story. About 3 summers ago, I was in my office at New Song Church, and in walked another guy from the church and introduced my guest today, Bobby Reaume. And Bobby walked into the office and said, "Hey, do you remember me?" And like every good pastor, I lied and said, "Oh, hi. Yeah. Uh, but after a bit of talking and thinking about it, it started to come back to me that we had met a few years prior when he and his wife Grace had been to the church for a bit. Well, the day that I met Bobby, he had just days before been released from prison, ended up on the streets living in Tent City in Hamilton, and had gotten steeped back into his addictions. And we'll tell the story about how you ended up coming to Windsor, but needless to say, you were embarking on a new journey at Launchpad Recovery Center. So, Bobby, it's great to have you here and have this conversation with you. These past 3 years have been nothing short of miraculous. Maybe just to set the tone, today, what can you say about who Jesus is to you?
Today, Jesus is my Father, and Jesus is everything that I am today. He gave me a do-over. I got grace and mercy from Him to live. Again.
To live?
To live again.
Yeah.
He took it all away, all the bad, all the stuff that I did, and gave me a new day. And for that, I'm thankful every day.
I can tell. Every time I see gratitude. You're a married man. You got kids. Tell me about Grace and tell me about your family.
Married 24 years. I have 6 children, 1 grandchild, who I had just met when I got released from prison. I didn't even know we had. They ranged from 23 to 11.
Yeah. When you mentioned getting out of prison and feel free to share anything about that part of your life. How did you end up in prison?
Not for doing the right things. I walked away from my family 7 years ago. Addiction came back into my life, and so I started dabbling again with cocaine, and my kids saw me doing it, and the police used to come to the schools and have a lesson on drugs and alcohol and stuff to the kids. So my one son started crying, and so the teacher, because he doesn't cry really, and the teacher came and took him and asked him, "What's the matter?" And he's like, "I think my dad's drinking and using drugs again." So I got a phone call from the principal saying that they were holding my kids until my wife came because there's suspected drug use at my house. So it wasn't a pleasant conversation with the principal. I won't use the language I was using at that time. And the cops came looking for me, and I basically I had a choice, either face it or run, and I'm a runner, so I ran. And it took me back to the streets where I thought I was most comfortable because I grew up pretty much on the streets my whole life. And then it eventually led to arrests for drugs and fraud and robbery and all that stuff that comes with that lifestyle. And then they finally caught me and I got sent to jail.
That had to have been devastating to have children's aid saying you're not fit as a father, right?
Yeah, I told them they better release my kids and bring them, let me come get them or else.
Fill in the blanks, right?
Yeah, fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
And it was tough, right? It was tough because I was sober for, well, on and off for about 8, 9 years at that time. Most of my kids did not see me use. I hid it all the time,
Mhm.
but my wife knew. And so it was a shock.
Mhm.
It was a shock that all of a sudden, we're living out in Amherstburg, and all of a sudden my dad's gone, and the police are looking all over the place for him because they don't know what's going to happen next,
Yeah.
right? Um, so yeah, it was pretty devastating for them all, and it still is to
Mhm.
this day.
Mhm.
And this is 7 years later. Um, it's still devastating to me.
Yeah. I,
That's where Jesus comes in,
yeah.
because he gives me every day I get a new day to start fresh again, and that's the most awesome thing in the world.
Yeah. You're not held captive by
That's
your
right.
past.
The chains are gone.
Yeah. How did uh, how did you and Grace meet?
You really want to know? No, I came to Windsor to see a friend that I met in college,
Where were you living at that time?
Peterborough.
Peterborough.
Um, so I was actively in college selling drugs and working at Domino's Pizza. So we met a friend because we're from Windsor. So we came down to his place to visit for a party. And my wife at the time, well, my wife, she was sitting at this party at the time, and something just told me that she was the one. I had 2 ounces of hash on me at the time.
Hmm.
So it was, and the cops came and the fire department came and stuff. It was quite a night. Yeah. And then I just actively pursued it.
Yeah. So was Grace ever using, or was she?
Yeah, she was rebelling.
Yeah.
She was rebelling. She grew up in a Christian family.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know what denomination, but they were no TV, no makeup kind of thing, and all focused on the Lord at all times.
So pretty strict upbringing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she was the baby of the family, so
Hmm.
I think with high school and stuff, kind of like took her to a different place.
So, I'm sensing a bit of a Beauty and the Beast story here.
Oh yes.
You know, what was
Yes.
what was your upbringing all about? What was that like?
My upbringing was, parents worked all the time. We were alone a lot of the time. We played outside all the time, and pretty much there were rules, but not really. I could be outside all day and come home at nighttime, and there was nothing of it. I am a mommy's boy. I was
Mhm.
very close with my mother, but my father was not. He grew up in a family of 14, so I believe that the love was a little bit missing
Hmm.
from him and his family, even though they loved each other. They all loved each other, but it was just a different time, right? A different era back then. For me, I'm a sensitive guy. I'm a huggy kind of
Mhm.
guy, and I need that stuff in my life to keep me going.
Yeah.
And I never ever got that from my father.
Yeah.
He was a tough and rough and kind of guy, where I just wanted to, like, I love you, Dad, give him a hug, and it was never there. It was pushed away, and what do you want from me, kind of deal,
Yeah.
right? Even though, like, now he's passed on now for 17 years, but everybody always tells me how much he always talked about me, how much he loved me, how much this for me, he wanted this and that for me, but I never got it. I never saw it,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I believe that's what I was searching for since I was
Mhm.
9 years old.
Yeah.
That's when I started experimenting with marijuana and stuff. It brought me to a different place.
9 years old.
9 years old.
Was it like in your house? Did you have,
It was with a friend.
or a friend? Yeah.
It was in Alberta. I still
Mm-hmm.
remember the day. It was an outdoor hockey rink,
Mm-hmm.
and it was spring. And my friend got it stole it from his older brother. And he's like, let's go try this.
Was your friend like 9 or 10 years old?
Same age.
Yeah.
Same age. And he said, let's go try this. And okay. So we went and tried it. And then became like every other day. It was like smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so and I remember smoking it and watching my mother walk through the field coming home from work. And we were hiding, right? Because we were scared. But then after a few times of doing it, it made me come out of the person that I was. Like I was very shy, very quiet, and very I don't know how you can say. I was just very alone.
Mm-hmm.
And once this started coming in every day, I met a whole nother list of people, other kids that were doing it as well.
Yeah.
So, and they're from that side of the road, and I was on this side of the road, which was a little bit better, but yet we're all the same, and it just took off from there, and it became a weekend thing every weekend for 37 years.
Yeah. Some of the people that teach and talk about addictions I think about like Gabe Mator and guys like that,
Mm-hmm.
who there's this idea that your addiction comes out of a lack of relationship. You know, that isolation and loneliness
Mm-hmm.
and feeling disconnected.
Yeah.
How much of addiction do you think for you was tied to having a friend, having somebody else that you could come together with, even though it was for something harmful in some cases?
Well, it opened the door for me to just be somebody else,
Yeah.
right? Because most of my life I hated myself.
Hmm.
I did. And I put on a good face and stuff like that growing up. Everything's okay, but I didn't love myself. I hated myself. I hated the way my hair was. I hated the way I looked. I just, maybe that came from the lack of the love from my dad or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And all I know is growing up that I hated myself, and even at 8, 9, 10 years old, I wanted to kill myself.
Mm.
And that's a scary, scary place to be.
Yeah.
And smoking would actually take me away from that.
Right.
Right? And then it would take me to a different spot. Almost like Jesus does with me now. It takes me to another place, right? It fills all that stuff in.
I like your shirt there. Hold it out there. Faith over fear.
Faith over
Yeah,
fear.
that's really what you're learning in these last 3 years, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I lived in fear my whole life.
Yeah.
Even if it was what was going on in my head, my heart, or what was going on the street.
Mm-hmm.
I was selling drugs on the streets by 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing cocaine when I was like 12 years old.
Mm.
So we would go to Toronto on the weekend, take a bus, and we'd sell hash down on Yonge Street.
Wow. At that age?
At that age. Like I would sleep at the gutters. I would sleep at the time they had YMCA's.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd pay $2, you get a room, and and we'd stay there all weekend. My parents didn't really know. They didn't know what I was doing. They just figured I was at my friend's house. But that's what I was doing. I was out there selling drugs.
Wow.
And I remember like we used to sit and get warm across from Sam the Record Man on Yonge Street, right? There was a grate there.
Yeah.
That's where we would chill. Meet. That was my meeting place.
And would you come back with a lot of money, or would you just spend a lot of it?
Well, we had a quota, right?
Yeah.
I had to bring back a certain amount, and then most of it was for free dope.
Hmm.
And then I would have dope. So you learn how to feed your habit.
Yeah.
Without when you're 14 years old, you don't have means to money all the time,
Yeah.
right?
So you were hiding it from.
I've been hiding it for a long time.
Yeah.
You know,
When
if my mother hears this now, she's probably because she doesn't know any of this. But you know,
Bobby Reen,
yeah.
go to your room.
Oh, it's Robert Earl Rhea. But yeah, it's just it's messed up. It's messed up.
Yeah.
But that's where I found comfort. Right.
When did your family find out that you were using drugs or
Well,
selling drugs or any of it?
I think my dad found out when I moved out. They cleaned up my basement bedroom, and he found some joints
Mm-hmm.
and underneath the bed and stuff. And then he came confronted me. He's like, "I cleaned up your room and I found this." I was like, "Oh, that's where I left it." Right? Trying to shrug it off and walk
Yeah.
out the door, right?
Yeah.
But he wasn't much of words,
Mm-hmm.
but he's just like, "I found what was under your bed,"
Yeah.
and that was that.
That was the extent of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've never really. The only time I would get punished for the drug use is if the police caught me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, to me, there's my way of saying that it's okay to do this.
Mm.
Do
Right.
you know what I mean? Like it's just
You needed a father to actually say that you can't do this
Yeah.
and set some limits and
yeah.
yeah.
But like my dad would work all day, right? So
Yeah.
he's gone at 4 a.m,
Yeah.
and he would get home at 5, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Have a couple shots and a beer and
Yeah.
a meal, and he's in bed. Like I was out the door. I was sneaking out the door every night at
Mhm.
like 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I'd be out all night. And
Mhm.
then I would wait till he leaves at 4:30 in the morning, and then I'd go in the house.
Hmm.
They never knew.
Yeah.
They might have known, but they never
Yeah.
confronted me about it, right? So there was a lot of freedom, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So were you out partying and
Yeah,
yeah.
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 Stealing cars or stealing stuff, and
Yeah.
you know, I was 15 years old and I got charged with 31 car thefts out
Wow.
of Hamilton. So we were running a car theft chop shop kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what led to me actually the next level of my addiction.
Mhm.
Because when I got caught, you know, he came to get me downtown, you know, and I wasn't telling the cops anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he's like, he punched me, and he's like, "You tell them the truth, blah blah blah," and you know that was pretty much it for that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then he told me to pack my stuff and go,
Mm-hmm.
so I did.
Yeah.
And that's when I moved back to Toronto and started selling cocaine at the biker bars.
Yeah.
You know, doing whatever you got to do. And I didn't talk to my parents probably for over 2 years.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We were talking before we started recording about beards, and and you got a great beard, and apparently you always have. Were you born with a beard?
Well, I was 15, right?
15, you
I
started growing your beard.
Goatee.
Yeah.
And like I looked the same pretty much since I was 15.
Yeah.
Like I've been like this.
Yeah.
Right? So I could pretty much, I was a little bit thicker,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, it's kind of hard at my age now to get my weight back on after what I've been through, but I'm doing pretty good. You know,
Well, let's talk about the drugs for a minute. You know, it started at 9 years old, smoking your first joint. Then by 12, you were using cocaine.
and the stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
Like we were sniffing glue. We were huffing gas at that time. Like
Wow.
that's when all that stuff was going on, right? When
Wow.
I grew up. So there was a lot of different things going on.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not just amazed that I am mentally and
Yeah.
physically the way I am because we did it a lot. Like even the glue, people were dying sniffing glue.
Yeah.
If you remember.
Yeah, I
You know,
do.
the
Yeah.
kids were doing, and we were doing that. And I'm
Mhm.
okay to say that today because that is part of my thing. Like, I remember huffing gas. I remember all that stuff, but I
Yeah.
don't remember growing up. I
Mhm.
don't remember the things that happened in school. I don't remember, like, I've shut that out.
Yeah.
I don't have much memory of my grade school life.
Yeah.
You know, that's the trauma, right? For whatever reasons it is. But
And then, were there, towards the end of this horrible part, when you got back into your addiction, had to leave your family, were you going back to the same old drugs, or were there other things that like?
well,
How
yeah,
deep did you go?
I went back to the cocaine first
Mhm.
because my partner at the time for when I was bricking houses, they had cocaine on them.
Yeah.
So I started with the cocaine and the beer.
Mm-hmm.
And then when all that stuff happened with the police and Jones 8 and stuff, um, the cocaine and that was pricey, and I wasn't working no more because I just walked away from everything.
Yeah.
I pretty much left everything.
Yeah.
And so someone got me introduced to the White House, and that's where I discovered meth
The White House is
on Olet.
on Olet Avenue in Windsor. Yeah.
Yes, well, we used to chop dope out of there
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. So I became part of that
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
cycle, I guess. So,
Yeah.
but that was part of the journey that really changed me to the next level down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was cheaper, it was more convenient because it was hard to find crack and stuff at that time because this meth was coming in like crazy.
Yeah.
So I started doing that, and I'd be up for a week, 2 weeks, whatever. Well, it came to a point where it wasn't working anymore, so then I started injecting. So then I became an IV drug user. Whatever. It was meth, pills, cocaine, whatever it was.
Kind of hard to imagine, eh? It's not working anymore.
Yeah. It was like my mouth was getting so sore from smoking so much.
Yeah.
Because me, I go all in.
Yeah.
Whatever I do,
Yeah.
right? It's all in. And that's the scary part of addiction because I'm at that point where you're at that point where you don't care.
Yeah.
You don't care what you're smoking. You don't care what you're injecting. All you want to do is stop that.
Yeah.
And when you stop or you don't have it,
Yeah.
you do whatever you can to get it.
You want to stop the torment in your mind.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then it's the feelings, the kids, everything comes back, and you just want to get rid of that as fast as possible.
So I think it was during COVID that you got released from jail. What jail were you in? And take me from the day you got out of jail to the day you ended up back in Windsor.
I was in Barton Street Jail in Hamilton for a year. I was in Barton Street for 6-7 months before that. I got released for 4 days, and then I got busted with 2 ounces of meth. 4 days later, I think it was Valentine's Day or something. I believe that I'm a COVID miracle. COVID actually saved my life. I got released early. I did not know. I got called for court. I got released early from jail. 6 months.
I remember that a lot of jails were
Yeah.
thinning out the population.
Well, we were 3 to a cell. And
Yeah.
we were locked up for 23 hours a day. Well, 23 and a half hours a day for about 6 months.
And they only let the good guys out early.
Yeah, so I never got out. Like, I didn't even know, right?
Yeah.
But it came to the point where they're like, okay, we're thinking about releasing you.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going back into my cell thinking, oh man, what am I going to do now? Right? Because you're not expecting this day to come. I didn't know much about COVID. We only seen what was on TV.
Yeah.
And so I got an appointment with the worker before I got released. And I'm like, well, what do I do? Because she's giving me the rundown. You have to have a mask on. You have to do this and this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, the city's on like a shutdown. It's locked down or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, well, I thought, well, I want to get back to Windsor. So I was trying to call Detox in Windsor, and they would have nothing to do with it because I wasn't out of prison yet.
Mm.
right? So I knew I could possibly be out today. Can I come? And so they didn't do nothing. So they ended up releasing me. They
What
took,
time of year was it?
this was August, end of August,
End of August.
August 24th,
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah.
Remember it a while. So they released me. I said, well, where do I go? They're like, you know, you can't go to the missions. You can't go to Salvation Army. You can't go anywhere because everything is closed. So they said, your best bet is to go to Tent City across the street, grab a tent, and find some grass, and see you later.
Wow.
So here I am. And Hamilton is a very busy, busy, busy place.
Mhm.
Nonstop, 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And when I got released, there was nothing moving.
Yeah.
There was no cars. There was no people. There was nothing. They told me to go back in front of Barton Street jail, and that's where the tent city was at the time.
Mm.
They took me to the um, fingerprint place and mugshot place
Yeah.
before they released me, and so I had to walk back to tent city, and it was just eerie. I remember the eerie feeling. It's just like, well, what am I gonna do now? Like, you know, you always wish for the world to stop,
Yeah.
and you can have free range to do whatever you want. But when
Yeah.
you've been locked up for the last 2 years, and then you get thrown into that, you don't know what to do. Like,
You
there
got
was
you
no
got
walk.
released from jail into the whole city
Yeah.
being shut down.
Every door was locked. Every washroom was closed. There was no payphones. There
Yeah.
was nothing. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know what happened. Like, the whole world changed
Yeah.
within that time, and when they released me. So I got to Tent City, and there was a little hub there, and they're like, okay, they gave me a sleeping bag. They didn't even have tents, and that was it. And I'm looking at this whole area, and it's just like tarps and bikes and people. There was probably about 300 people,
Mm.
all stuck into this thing, right? So of course, within 10 minutes, I had a needle in my arm,
Yeah.
right? So I was just like, how am I gonna get through this? I was not prepared for this at all.
Yeah.
So, you know, the next couple of days was that.
Mhm.
You know, there was people walking around like there were zombies and stuff like that, and fentanyl just started coming out before I went away.
Mhm.
You know, I was dealing it and selling it as well, but it just started. You
Mhm.
know, I didn't know the whole effect it was taking until I got to Tent City, and I seen that, and I'll never forget. I'll never forget when I walked in there, and sitting there and watching what was going on. It's just it was.
It was
I don't even know how to describe it.
like a zombie
It
apocalypse.
was a zombie, and I always
Yeah.
call it Zombieville, because
Yeah.
that's what it was. It was like that. So a few days later, that's when I started really thinking, like,
Mhm.
is this what you want?
Mm.
Is this what you want? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So, so there you are it's amazing that, you know, in a country that has so many resources, so many smart people, so many ways to set up shop and help people,
Yeah.
that the best option coming out of jail was to go to Tent City and them tell you that.
yeah, they
You know,
weren't
like-
too happy about it either, but
Yeah, and you know, I think that's what, I mean, I think COVID caught a lot of people off guard to realize just that our systems, our ways of help, like this is paper thin.
mhm.
This doesn't always get us to where we need to be.
And I had almost 2 years clean in jail. Well, there's
Yeah.
jail drugs, right? But
Yeah.
I didn't participate much into that.
Yeah. They come at a cost, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I had my things too, you know, like I
Yeah.
was hoarding Suboxone and stuff like that to sell for money because I didn't have anything. I didn't have
Yeah.
anybody. Everybody just let me go.
Yeah.
And counting, if it was a few months or something, it would be all right. But it was almost 2 years. It was 2 years that I was out of this world,
Yeah.
and then put back into that.
Wow.
And it's just it was another time where it's just like, you know what, let's end this.
Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to do for the last 7 years or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Just trying to end it. And
How pervasive through your life was the desire to die?
there's probably about 7 times,
Yeah.
like to the point where I've had a gun in my mouth,
Yeah.
put the bullet in, pull the trigger, it didn't come.
Mm.
And then my friend caught me and beat the crap out of me. But, you know, and there's times when, you know, I tried to drive in front of a dump truck or hang myself or, you know, there's all
Yeah.
kinds of different things. But it never worked. And this is today's where I believe that God had his hand on my life.
Apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because even through all these situations I've been into and like shot at, stabbed at, stuff like that, and car accidents, I've never broken a bone in my body, ever. And I've been in some pretty bad things, like accidents and falling off mountains and stuff like that. And
Wow.
so it finally, this is where my surrendering comes in. And when I was sitting at Tent City there, what do you want to do? And I prayed to God, you know, if you get me out of here, I will never touch a needle again. You know, I gave him the demand.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we do, right?
Yep.
If you do this for me, I will do this for you.
Yeah.
But I was curled up on the building getting rained on at Tent City, and I think this is my verse, right? 2 Timothy 4:17 and 18. You heard my cry, and he pulled me out of that.
Mm.
And he did, because I made a phone call, and my sister was there to pick me up within days.
Mm.
And I said, you have to get me out of here now, right?
Yeah.
And this is where the transition began.
Where did your sister live?
In Hamilton.
In Hamilton. Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up in Hamilton.
Yeah. So she came. She picked you up.
She came, well,
At
she
Tent
actually,
City?
I got to a friend's house, my co-accused, actually,
Yeah.
and it was, I walked into their house and everybody was all fettied out, dope all over the place.
Yep.
And I was just like, you gotta come get me now.
Yeah.
Because I didn't use that
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And I said, you have to get me out of here now before I put this in my, and she did, she came and got me.
Wow.
She came and got me. So I believe that, you know, it was a miracle that I could get that number. It was because I had no phones, no nothing, right? And it was there.
Wow.
It was there for me. So I believe, you know, God has had his hand on me. It's just waiting for me to surrender.
So she comes to your co-accused's house, picks you
Got
up,
me out.
and takes you home, or?
Well, she dumped me off on my other sister.
Uh-huh.
Because I wasn't allowed at her house with her. She was living with her father and mother-in-law and
Yeah.
stuff. They didn't want me around,
Mm-hmm.
right, because of what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So my other sister from Welland, which was another place I just trashed through with selling drugs and everything, and went to jail. You know, she came and got me with the notion that I was leaving to go to rehab.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is where it started. Like I called detox probably 50 times in Windsor.
And
You know, and by the time I finally got to them, because I was in Welland, they wouldn't help me. I'm like, the last place I left and got arrested from, I'm from Windsor. And they're like, we can't help you. I'm like, I'm trying to get to Brentwood or something, you know? Like, I'm trying to get back.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're sorry. So I kept calling. I kept calling, because my sister wanted me out,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And this is where Launchpad came in, because she's like, let me give you this guy's number.
Your sister gave you John Button's
No,
number?
Detox.
Or Detox did?
Detox.
Okay, yeah,
Detox in
because
Windsor.
they knew John. Yeah.
Yeah, so they said, let me give you this guy's number. He may have a bed for you.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay. So I'm figuring, if I get in touch with this guy, get one night, and I can go into Brentwood. Because 25 years ago, when the old Detox, that's what you did.
Yeah.
Right? You went in, Brentwood came, picked you up. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, it's the same way. So they gave me this number, and then I got through, and I phoned him. And, you know, yo, bro. Yeah, so it was like...
Did you guys know each other at all?
No, I had no
based
idea
on
who
Wild?
he was. I don't know. I had no
No.
idea about Launchpad. I had no idea what I was getting. I just wanted somewhere to go before I went to Brentwood.
Yeah.
So I told him what was going on. I just got released from jail. I'm at Tent City, and I want to get into recovery through Brentwood or whatever. And he's like, okay, okay, you sober? I'm like, yeah, I've been sober for a week. I'm at my sister's house, you know. And he's like, okay, will you come here right now, sober, and I got a bed for you. But I was like, well, there's a issue because I'm in Welland. So can I make it like Sunday? This was like a Thursday or Friday, right? So he's like, yeah, you come Sunday by 4 o'clock, sober, and I got a bed for you. So there it began,
Wow.
right? So I did not know this, but my sister had called my wife and told her they got me,
Yeah.
right? Because my wife and kids had no idea. They didn't
You'd
hear from me.
abandoned ship. You were.
They didn't know if I was
nowhere to
alive,
be found,
dead. They heard bits and pieces of my sister finding me in jail here or jail there
Yeah.
and stuff. But they were expecting the phone call that your father's dead or your husband's dead.
Yeah.
That's what they were waiting for. And so she takes me from Welland and starts heading down the 401, and we stop in London at the McDonald's there on Wellington.
Mm-hmm.
And I go have a smoke, and her pulls up my wife.
Your wife
Yeah.
pulled up.
Pulled up.
You were set up.
I was set up. So she pulled up, and she brought me to Launchpad. We both didn't have no idea what Launchpad was.
Yeah.
But it was an okay drive. It was. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
I wasn't even expecting to be here.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so an hour and a half, which felt like 4.5, 5 hours. We pull up to Launchpad and on a let, and this is where I was telling earlier about God has a sense of humor, because the last place I left Windsor is the first place I get dropped off at, which was right across from the White House on Olette, Launchpad Recovery Center. And my wife's like, I'm not letting you out. I don't want, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, because this is where I believe I made that prayer to come get me out of this
Yeah.
this hell,
Yeah.
whatever it is, the lion's mouth, and he delivered, and he delivered me right back to where it was, and there was my choice. Everything's a choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
My choice was, I go there, or I go this way. Do I want to go back to the chaos, or do I want to surrender and get my life back and live again? And I chose to live again.
Yeah. Now you, in Tent City, that was not the first time that you had an awareness of God or had spoken to God. You had a bit of history with the Lord. How
Yeah.
did that all get started?
Wow,
And
that's
and
long. My first real encounter was when I went to Teen Challenge,
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yes, I married into a Christian family. I got baptized because she got baptized,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that would take everything away, and playing the half and half on this side and this side. I wasn't fully 100% committed, but
Yeah.
I was going because I wanted that,
Yeah.
right? But I didn't understand the transition, and I didn't know. But God knew,
Yeah.
right? I had to go through that.
Yeah.
And I had to figure it out. But when I got to Teen Challenge, it was all Christianity. It's a Christian recovery center for
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah.
So within that year, I did like 2.5 years of college Bible study.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all day long. It's Christ, 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 Christ. And then I started understanding, and I started feeling better,
Mm-hmm.
and I started, okay, I'm gonna let it out, let it go,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna pray, and I'm gonna worship, and I'm gonna do this,
Yeah.
because it's telling me things.
Yeah.
You're worth it, we love you. He loves me. Never,
Yeah.
no matter what,
Yeah.
matter what. I still didn't understand it 100% until this time now, but it was just like. It was amazing, and it changed me. It really
Mhm.
did. It changed me, and but I've always wanted that old Bob back,
Mm-hmm.
right? 'Cause
Yeah.
that's the one I'm comfortable with,
Yeah.
and that's hard to make that change. you know. So Teen Challenge, this old couple asked me, they said, would you like to be delivered? I'm like, to where? Back to Windsor? And they're like, no, we're having a deliverance. Would you like to have a deliverance?
Hmm.
And I thought about it and I'm like, you know what? Sure, I'll go with this. So they took me to the church and we had this deliverance thing.
Mm-hmm.
And my gosh, this pastor is Pastor Kusick at the time.
Peter Cusick?
Peter Kusick.
Yeah, good friend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did this thing, and I seen so many demons, so many chains. Like I wrote a story about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was climbing through this mountain, and for my life, I was running for my life and clinging to this, and this thing is chasing me. You know, chasing me and chasing me and chasing me, and I remember being scared. I remember being this. I remember all those things that I've been hiding from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as I'm climbing up this thing as fast as I can, and I'm like, I'm gonna die. I'm going and going and going and going, and then all of a sudden, I see this blue of the bluest, and all of a sudden, boom! I come out, and then this person pulls me out, and it was Jesus. At the time, what I thought was Jesus, and my father beside him, and then we lost a baby, like in
Your
during
grace
pregnancy.
said, yeah.
We lost a baby,
Yeah.
and I believe that baby was there as well.
Mm.
And they just hugged me,
Wow.
right? And then,
So this all transpired in this deliverance session where
yeah, I don't know how long it lasted for.
Yeah.
Like it could have been 2 or 3 hours. All I know is I was completely exhausted,
yeah.
and I went back to Teen Challenge, and my head was pounding. I was sweating. It was like I was laying in bed, and it was like all this poison was sweating out of me. It hurt.
Mm.
Like, but I was like feeling like I was levitating on the bed. It was crazy, right? And I've never been as high as in my life to get the feelings that I had that day,
Wow.
you know. And I cried, and then my tears, my eyes were burning, you know, my whole face was burning with tears, and then I just remember falling asleep,
Wow.
and I woke up the next day, and we're playing soccer outside. You know, and there was another guy that I was close with at Teen Challenge, and he wasn't 100% believer either.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes up to me, he's like, Bobby, what's up? He goes, I'm watching you from the end of the goal line, and there's like a beam of light around you, everywhere you're running.
Wow.
Yeah, and he didn't know no idea about my deliverance, right?
Yeah.
And he's just like, I was just watching, it was like this beam of light everywhere you were. Made me scared, right? I got scared.
You got scared, yeah.
I got scared, you know. And we had another incident at a church where we were having a prayer thing, and it scared me.
Yeah.
I'll just say that it scared the crap out of me, and I never ever could get back to that because I didn't like that.
So you chose fear over faith. Right.
And went back to using, or you know, my comfort,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Why do you think you were afraid?
I was afraid to change.
Yeah.
I didn't see Christians as strong men or nothing. I saw it as weakness.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it as like I don't know the whole system. I didn't know the whole system at the time. I just, you know, I loved my family because they were Christians, and
Yeah.
but there were some that I just think were nerds and geeks, and
Yeah.
that wasn't me. I built this image of me for so long of being this tough street kid, blah blah blah, and I didn't want to be like that.
Yeah.
But then, you know, at age 47, that's all I wanted to be,
Yeah.
right? So he gave me the choice again, right?
So you show up at Launchpad Recovery Center, and John Button, who runs Launchpad, had a very dramatic story as well. He came to Jesus in jail,
Yeah.
and had a conversation with the Lord, and where he said, if I can have 5 years clean and sober because of Jesus, then I'll start a Christ-centered recovery home.
Yeah.
and he's done that. And
Yes.
there's dozens of men that have been through Launchpad, and
Yeah.
you're one of them. So talk about Launchpad. What? Okay, so you're at a place where you're actually saying, Jesus, I surrender.
Yeah.
You know, and so what went on at Launchpad, and how did that how it start to reframe you?
Well, when I got into the office there, it was like I said, I thought I was there for the day, the night,
Mm-hmm.
and then he just blatantly told me, "You ain't going anywhere. You know, this is a Christ-centered recovery center." And I'm like, "Oh, even better." Right?
Yeah.
'Cause I'm like, all right, because I've done the Christian Recovery Center, and that's where I've gotten my best,
Yeah.
you know. And then I remember my prayer, so I took it as an opportunity, as the God opening the door, right, and then put me back in front of where I left, right. So he said to me, he said, actually, he said it to my daughter, because she wasn't going to let me go, right. And he's like, just give me 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
6 months, and you'll have a new dad again. All right, so, and then we got in the office, and I said, 6 months? I said, how about I give you 2 years? And he laughed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, serious, like, I'm dedicating 2 years because I know that I need at least 2 years.
Yeah.
I've done the year,
Yeah.
and I got lots of sobriety, but I didn't do it 100%. But 2 years is what I need. That's what was put into my heart,
Mm-hmm.
my mind, and that's what I wanted to do. So, I don't know, like, it happened so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this 2 years, it flew by.
Yeah.
You know, there was Pastor Roy that came here, and he's like, how you doing, young man? And I'm like, well, you know, I'm
Yep.
okay. And he's like, do you know Jesus? And I'm like, I do. And he's like, do you want to surrender to Jesus? And I said, let me think about that for a minute. And I said, no, absolutely. I said, yes. And then I just broke down. I broke down and cried right on that table. And he sat there with me for a little while. And he says, you know, it's okay to rededicate your life. It's okay to start again. You
Yeah.
know, because that's what my fear of starting again. Like, I've done it again and again, and with the wife and the kids,
Yeah.
and they've been through it enough times. And, you know, that's why I would rather not have come back, because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
You know, and I told him, I said, I am done. I said, I want to surrender 100% and give my life back, because he kept me safe, he's kept me healthy, and he's given me a do-over. And he said, okay. So he prayed over me. I prayed. I basically prayed for everything just to go away, like the cravings, the this and that, the hurt, the shame, the guilt. You know, like, I want a clean slate.
Yeah.
You know, you brought me here. I want a clean slate.
Old Bob had to die.
Old Bob died.
Yeah.
Old Bob died that day down in that old basement,
Yeah.
on that table with Pastor Roy.
Yeah.
And pretty much, I believe I was delivered that night.
Mm-hmm.
My cravings were gone.
Yeah.
My thoughts were gone. I had a clean slate, and it was time. And it just, I don't even remember, really, because it happened so fast and so good. And, like, I got blessed. Like, you know, coming from Tent City at that time was, you know, 2.5 years ago to today. You know, like, I'm almost 3 years next month, or 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I went through Launchpad. I've got my job back. I've got most of my family back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have relationships with them.
Mm-hmm.
I have my own house now in Kingsbridge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I came to Launchpad with an empty backpack.
Yeah.
That's all I had. Was
Yeah.
an empty backpack and the clothes on my body. Right?
How much do you deal with loneliness?
I don't.
What?
It's gone.
What do you mean it's gone?
It's gone.
Yeah.
I'm not lonely. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm good. Like, every morning I have a schedule now.
Yeah.
Every morning I wake up, I do my devotions.
Yeah.
You know, I do about 45 minutes. I wake up at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Do my devotions every day.
Yeah.
Every day, and I have apps coming in this and that that keep me refreshed
Yeah.
all day long because
Yeah.
I need that.
Yeah.
And if I don't have that, I don't start my day out like that, then I'm done. Like I'm not done, but
Yeah.
old Bob can come back, and
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
And I think believe changing my ways of life now
Yeah.
help because I read the word every day, no matter what.
Unbelievable how powerful, our practices are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe God's still with me every day because when my things pop up, it's exactly what I need for
Yeah.
that to start my day or what happened last night or something, right?
Yeah.
The beauty is every day we get a new day of mercy and grace, and I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah.
You know, I get to wake up again and,
Yeah.
and do it,
Yeah.
try and do it better than I did yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, and that's my goal now is to wake up every day and try and do a little more, better. Because I'm gonna fail.
Yep.
We really are, right? And
So you're working, you got a house.
I work in a house. I have my own house now.
Yeah. You've been reunited with your family.
I live right around the corner from them
Yeah.
now, so I see them every day,
Yeah.
most of the time. You know, it's good.
So bringing it up to what's current, our church, New Song, has a ministry called Street Angels, and there's this old house trailer that was fixed up and painted and repurposed as the soup shack.
Yes.
And so it sits down on Wyandotte and Parent right now, and in the evenings, and folks who are on the streets or street affiliated after
That's
hours,
awesome.
it's a place to go get something to eat. And
Yes.
you're right in the thick of that. You're leading a team of volunteers. Talk about the soup shack. What's going on there?
The soup shack is phenomenal. When I got 2 years clean, I started praying again. What do you want me to do now? Because like my 2 years was up.
Yeah.
So this thing again popped up on my phone about this soup shack.
Mhm.
Now back when I was in Hamilton, we wouldn't eat for a long time, and we heard there was a guy that comes with his truck, so food and coffee and stuff like that. So we would go visit him, and it's always been on my heart to do that if I ever got clean,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I seen this ad for the soup shack looking for volunteers. So I emailed Marissa. She was the one who started all this, and told her a bit about my story and how I would love to do that. And she emailed back right away, you know, and it was at the Throne of Grace at that time. So I went, I think it was the second day I was there.
Yeah, the trailer was at Throne of Grace Church,
Throne of Grace.
right downtown, Park in Victoria.
Yeah.
And then we lost that spot and
Yeah.
had to wait for a bit, and then we relaunched it
Yeah.
at Wyandotte and Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ever since that first day, I never left.
Mm.
Most of the people that are still around, I used with,
Mm.
you know, and most of them recognized me because I haven't really changed.
People that you had used with
Yeah.
on the streets.
On the streets.
And how long ago had you been connected to the people that you're meeting now?
Well, that was within the 5 years,
Yeah.
right? It was different on the streets back then than it is now, but
Yeah.
we used to congregate together,
Yeah.
use together,
Yeah.
sleep together on the streets, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So when this soup shack thing came, I went for my first shift, and I was just like, yeah, this is what I need to do.
Yep.
And so now I'm presently the coordinator of this thing. Careful what you pray for, because it's crazy.
You
'cause
work full time,
I
and
work
then
full-time.
and then you go to the soup
I
shack.
go to the soup shack, you know, and and it's about building trust with them, building a relationship with them. You know, most of them know that what I've been through. Most of them know that I was a drug user. Most of them know
Yep.
I've been through jail and stuff. And you know, and they ask me why I do this,
Mhm.
and I was like, because like I do it for you guys. Like I love you guys.
Yeah.
You know, I love you every day. Every day I tell them I love you, every single one of them. You know, because we never got that.
Yeah.
We still don't get that,
Yeah.
right? I say we because, you know, they have, you know, it's hard every day out there, you
Yeah.
know, and so the soup shack creates a place where they can come get some soup, get some snacks, get a hot chocolate, get some clothes, some shampoo, whatever they need for that day. It's
Yeah.
pretty much we based it on, from my knowledge of what I needed most of the time, what we're looking for when we were on the street, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, my presence there is, you know, I like to give them hope and joy and love, you know, hope that they can change,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm doing it. And there's a number of us that are been in addiction that are
Yeah.
running or volunteering at the soup shack,
Yeah.
you know, so when they come in and they ask questions and stuff like that, it opens the door. And I was like, look, there's three of us here.
Mm-hmm.
We were all on the street within the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can too.
You can cross over.
You
Yeah.
can too,
Yeah.
you know. And they come high, they come mentally disturbed, they come happy.
Yeah.
Most of them, you know, are sad.
Yeah.
But we try every day to feed them and to make when they leave that they're smiling
Yeah.
and they're happy. And it's truly an amazing thing that's going on there,
You,
you know.
you were telling me a story a couple of weeks ago about there was a guy that was making some threats towards you. You know, you're down at the soup shack, and what's the story? Why did this guy have a beef with you, and what happened?
Um, well, at the soup shack, we have a parking lot, and we try to create a safe space for 2 hours at least of all these people's lives.
Yeah.
So we have street girls, we have drug dealers, we have users, whatever come. So this man pulled up in his Jeep right in the middle of the parking lot and tried to pick up one of the girls.
Mm.
So I caught this and I asked him nicely to move on. He ignored me. I asked him 3 or 4 times to move on, and he just kept continuing talking to this young lady.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, I got right to his door, and I said, "Listen, man, this is a safe place for these people for 2 hours." I said, "You're parked right beside it, which says private property of Lazarus Church.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go?" No, he started calling me Antichrist and this and that. He goes, "I'm the Lazarus and this and that." And I'm like, whatever. So I'm like, just leave, right? And after a few minutes of tossing back and forth words to me, he decided to leave. So I turned and went back to the shack, and he went across the street, come out, pull a knife, and egging
Pull
me,
the knife.
pull a knife, come on over here, come over here, come over here, we'll settle this now. So I started to walk a little bit over to the street to tell him to beat it, and everybody behind, all the people from the street behind me got up and started chasing this guy down the street. Basically, it's like everyone stood up and was watching. They're like, "Listen, just get out of here. You touch him,
Yeah.
and we're gone. You know, you're
Yeah.
gonna pay for it." So I had to ease them back, right? I'm like, we don't need that, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, and this is what it is. It's I got a chance to give them that peace of mind for the 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right? And I love to do that, and that's where I excel. And
Yeah.
you know, for them, when I noticed that they stood up and started
Yeah.
sticking up for me, that's when I knew that we're changing lives,
Yeah.
right? Because even if they're in the middle of addiction or being high or whatever, they all stood up. They stood up and were protecting what they have.
So no matter what condition a person is in,
There's an opening.
there's an opening, right? There's still a trace of conscience and a sense of there is a right and a wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's funny we mention that because, you know, we'll have people talking to themselves and yelling at
Yeah.
whoever,
Yeah.
and then I'll be like, "Would you like something? Would you like a soup? How are you? Blah blah blah." And then they stop.
Yeah.
"Yes, please."
Yeah.
That's when I come in.
Connection pulls them out of
Are you okay?
craziness. Yeah.
"Yeah, I'm okay."
Yeah.
"Okay, I love you. Here's your
Yeah.
soup. Here's your this," and then they continue on.
Hmm.
So there's an opening, right?
Yeah.
And you have to wait for that.
Yeah.
You know, there's the saying, we love them where they're at, right?
Mhm.
And we have to, and then when that opportunity arises, that's when it gets in, and then that's when you see them smile, and then they come back the next day,
Yeah.
and they say, "Remember when you did this or that?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, I remember."
Yeah.
So they're like, "Thank you," and
Yeah.
on their way they go.
Yeah.
Right? What can I do for you right now? What can I do for you right this moment? What do you need?
Mm.
And that's what the soup shack brings.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's not as great as that.
Yeah.
You know, and there's like you have to be on your toes.
Yeah.
But the one thing I'll say is the people that come, we have over 80 people coming a night within that 2 hours now.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of them are so thankful. They're so polite. You know, they just love being there. And as you've seen, there's sometimes that parking lot is full.
Yeah.
And we're just hanging out, talking. I'll go sit with them and chill, you know what I mean, have a hot chocolate with them.
You're seeing what God sees.
Yeah. And I was them,
Yeah.
right? And I was them. I
And
was one of them.
yeah. One more question. So if somebody is paying attention to this podcast and they've got perhaps a family member that keeps choosing fear over faith, somebody who's steeped in addiction and their mind is shot, Bobby, what would you say to somebody who came to you and described the relationship that they have to somebody that's down that rabbit hole?
You know, unfortunately, like you have to let them go, and they have to make their own decision. But what I would say is don't lose hope. Don't lose hope because one day that person might come back and say, "I need help."
Yeah.
You know, or get in touch with you at that moment. I'm gonna cry. And get in touch with you at that moment. You got to be there for that moment.
Yeah.
You know, it's that moment when they reach out, whatever way it is. You know, to say okay, and go get them.
Yeah.
Or make a phone call. Do
Yeah.
whatever it takes to get them at that moment, because at that moment, that's when they're gonna feel either the love or the hate.
Yeah.
Right? Because their minds are so messed up right now, and they don't know really what coming and going, right? But if they call and say, "I'm alive" or "I'm here," then you know, you pray. The moms and dads and families pray for these people
Yeah.
to come and get help, right?
Yeah.
And you have to let them go because they have to make their choice. But
Yeah.
you know, don't give up hope. I know my kids and my wife didn't,
Yeah.
and my mother-in-law and people in Israel were praying over me every day. You know, and even though I wasn't expecting to come back, and they weren't 100% sure that I was going to come back, but I did. And you know, and for my sisters and my wife and them to come get me at that time when I made that phone call, because if they didn't come get me, I probably would have been dead.
Yeah.
I would have been dead. And you know, because they had to let me go, and I had to go do what I had to do.
Yeah.
But I made that call.
Yeah.
And they came and got me.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know how to say that, you know, because it's hard. You know, like,
Yep.
we do a lot of stuff. We do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
There's a lot of damage. You know, and even like people at the soup shack will curse and swear and throw soup at me.
Yeah.
But I still love you. And
Yeah.
when you're ready, I'm here. Come find me. You know, and we'll work on how to get you to the next step. Because it is so tough, Pastor Kevin, like to come from that, to learn how to live again, to learn how to ask for help, learn, you know, even just to get your banking information, get your license back, get your things back, to get everything back.
Yeah.
You know, and it is so challenging for people out on the streets today.
Yeah.
Like it is. There is not much opportunity, and there's only very few of us that make it through.
Yeah.
There's like maybe 1%. I'd
Yeah.
like to say 2%. I wish it was higher, but it's, that's the sad truth, is it?
It can be higher, can't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it can. Like, and this is part of, we were talking about this earlier. I don't understand why there's so many obstacles. The cry for mental health and addiction and overdoses is rampant, and it's every day it's happening, but yet,
Yeah, a lot of red tape and
There's
a
a
lot
lot
of
of red
money gets
tape.
in the way.
like, for me, I have guys that come to the soup shack that overdose in the alley. They call detox and they say, "Well, you didn't use today. We can't help you." Or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you have to be in that
Yeah.
thing. So I was like, I had to take one young man. I was like, tell him, I pulled him out of the alley, overdosed.
Mhm.
Can you get him into treatment? He wants to get into treatment. And by the grace of God, he got in, and he's still in, and he's still doing good.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and I had the guy come up to me, he goes, "Bobby, I overdosed 2 days ago." And I saw him actually when they revived him, because
Yeah.
I was driving down the street, and he called detox, and they told him, no, basically.
Yeah.
How can
Yeah,
can we do that?
Yeah.
Like,
These systems are often so overwhelmed, and yeah, we
Yeah.
need a whole lot more Jesus on the streets.
well, and that's it. And people are, I don't know how to say it, like with Jesus, I just wait for my opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And they ask me, "Bobby, how did you get free? How did you get happy?" And I
Yeah.
tell them, I say, "Listen, the only way that I'm still sober today
Yeah.
is when I focus on Jesus."
Yeah.
That's it.
They saw in you a dead man that came back to
Yeah.
life.
Jesus, I wear the shirt. Jesus saved my life.
Yeah.
I wear it all the time.
Yeah.
And he did. He saved my life, and
Yeah.
and that's what I tell them. He'll save yours too.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole different way of living. It's a good living.
Yeah.
It's not so geeky anymore, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually, when I think about it, it's an honest day of living it, because the Bible tells you how to live,
Yeah.
and I do those
Yeah.
as best as I can.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not perfect. I'm just
Yeah.
forgiven.
You're not perfect, but you have a wife named Grace.
And I have the shirt for that too. But yes, for parents and
Yeah.
family out there, don't give up hope.
Yeah.
Don't give up hope. Just, I know you can't go chasing them down and stuff, but
Yeah.
if that opportunity comes where they call, go
Yeah.
get them.
Bobby, thanks for sharing your story, and let's stay close.
Yes.
All right.
Love you, bro.
Love you too. Bobby and his team of volunteers are doing such an incredible work in downtown Windsor out of the Soup Shack. The latest stats we're seeing up to 100 people a night coming out to receive soup and food and supplies. And the need just is so great in so many of our Canadian cities. On our next episode, I'm going to be interviewing a group of musicians from all over the U.S. They travel together. They're known as the Extreme Tour. And this is almost like a mission agency for musicians to go into communities where there's a lot of times great social need, and to work with the churches in those neighborhoods and put on concerts, but also to mix and mingle with the folks on the street. And so we've got them here for a whole week, and on our next episode, you're going to get to meet a few really neat people from all over the U.S. that are on mission in Windsor. So do come back for that episode. Until next time, I'm your host, Kevin Rogers, and you're listening to Sidewalk Skyline Podcast.
Studio 61.